want to try it out. So thanks everybody for joining me. I think that's it for tonight. We'll see if anyone else wants to join, and they'll just join us doodling. So if you decide not to doodle, there's no pressure to do that, and hopefully it's just relaxing, and we'll be doing that for about 30 minutes. I'm going to try to do this every Friday night with a different theme. If that's a cool thing for you, great. I want to be free and here for you to just have those 30 to 40 minutes. So now what you're going to see is me switching my camera around. So it's not going to be very slick. All right, so hopefully y'all can still hear me. I'll be able to see your comments, but if I'm drawing, I won't. So, hey Paul, how you doing? Thanks for joining. So I've taken the Room and Board catalog, which I'm fond of. The Room and Board is has a lot of class aspiration for me. And actually, next, because it looks like an ordered, very kind of bougie life where everything's okay. So I like to look at Room and Board catalogs because it's almost to the point of boring. It's so perfect. So monsters tend to destroy what's perfect and orderly, but maybe sometimes they allow for new things to happen. Who knows? So as I look through this magazine, I am just looking for a page on which to draw. And I would recommend, if you're doodling tonight and you have either a magazine or a piece of junk mail, just find something that will allow you to start. You don't have to be inspired by it. It just has to have plenty of space for you to doodle in. All right. And at this point, I'm probably just going to talk to myself, as I've been doing, and I won't be able to see your comments, and I apologize for that, but I'll be checking back in after one or two doodles. And one thing that's kind of interesting about doodles as well is that there is something that I like to call an iterative process, right? It's like I draw, and then a little part of my brain says, oh, let's draw another. But this time when we draw another shape, let's make it different. So sometimes I do that. Sometimes it just feels good to scribble. And even though I can't own this beautiful mirror or this lovely, I don't know, what is that, a credenza? No, it's not a credenza. I can't own them, but I can certainly put my mark on them. And that feels kind of good. And so kind of on the theme of monsters, it's fitting and interesting, I think, that I've picked a mirror. Because sometimes the things that I hate might be things that I hate about myself. Or the things that scare me might be things that make me feel out of control. Sometimes it's pure evil, and I guess I try not to believe in pure evil because it's harder for me to have empathy for something that's evil. So I try to say, oh, it's ignorant. But if I think about the first monsters I encountered, they were usually like in books. They were furry, scary, sharp teeth, aggressive. or they were something that surprised me. They were in under the bed or in a closet, or your house would be normal. House would feel together and orderly, and everything was fine. And then the monster would come and tell you, oh no, you're not safe. What you thought was safe is not safe. And that's something that I think over the last 4 years I've been feeling is not safe. And I think that's maybe other people feel the same way. And I think a lot of times we might look to leadership to reassure us. We might look to leadership to reassure us, to say, oh no, things are in order, or yes, I am an authority, and so you have nothing to worry about. Or I'm like you, so we're not so different. But that isn't always the case. So I'm going to share the screen with Maribeth if she with a doodle.
Thing, but I don't really.
Hi, Maribeth.
Oh, hey, I'm not really sure how this works. How's this work?
Well, right now we're looking at your head and we're talking while other people watch or doodle.
So, how can you see my doodle?
You're going to have to turn your camera towards your paper.
I know, but can I just flip it on this? There we go. Okay.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Thanks. Let's see.
Well, I'm glad you've joined us.
Yeah, I just walked by. I had it on my list and then I forgot all about it. And then suddenly it was like, oh, that's right now.
Yeah, I have been definitely been bombarding people with my advertising. So maybe it worked.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll choose this one to doodle on.
And we were just talking about monsters, and I was talking about it in probably a pretty opaque way. But the idea of not feeling safe or the idea of being scared is what kind of came up.
Well, there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah. Now, Maribeth, you live in Washington, D.C., so you are closer to things that might feel scary, although I think we all might feel it just by being on online.
I think that's fair. Just driving around, trying to get to work and back and having to be stopped, like, oh, can't go that way. There's a big army truck there. Oops, got to go this way. Oh, there's another army truck.
Oh, wow.
It just makes you very aware of things that you take for granted.
Now, does being around army trucks make you feel safer? Is that why they're there?
You know what? It was a weird thing because they're blocking off, downtown. And I didn't have to go downtown, but I needed to go by it. And so there's the big army truck and then the army guys standing there at the road. And I really felt compelled to wave to them. And I did. It was like, hi. It's like, this is weird.
Like, thank you for your service kind of thing?
A
Like,
little bit, I think. A little bit. Thanks for being here and whatever. I don't really enjoy seeing you here, but in another way, for safety and stuff, it's kind of important, isn't it?
but how do we know that they actually aren't insurrectionists?
I don't know. They looked so young. They looked like teenage boys with these big guns.
Oh, wow. And a lot of this stuff, unfortunately, it's like a lot of these a lot of these people have been trained by the military already. So it's just crazy. I never ever thought that the grammar school bully would actually be
Oh,
taking
come
over
on.
the country.
Well, I can see kids like the patrols on the school bus, telling you to go sit down and everything, thinking, well, I'll be pulled over by you in a couple of years and license registration and all. But, you always say that like jokingly, but, you know, here they are.
When I was a kid, I had a friend that I met in school, and he wasn't a friend right away, but he told me that he had lizards and snakes and all sorts of crazy animals. And I was like, wow, that sounds amazing. So I will come over to your house, right? And check it out. And then we became kind of, friends. But um, the family was pretty weird. The dad was an American history teacher. And that's not the weird part. I think there was something abusive going on between the father and the mother. And then the
Uh,
kids were feeling it too.
uh,
And there was a lot of drama and belts coming out. And I was like around.
when
And,
you were
and
around when belts were coming out,
huh? Oh, within the family, that like belts and,
but
punishment. Not just towards the mother, but towards the kids too.
I was saying while you were there.
Yeah. There was like threats of it. It was a very, like I mean, I'm not, my, what I grew up in, there was a lot of, people wanted things to be peaceful. People wanted things to be, it just felt like, I mean, families are families. We all have our stuff going
Right?
on when we're kids, but this was kind of intense. And I remember thinking, wow, uh, I, I didn't know what to make of it, because when you're a kid, you go and you visit different people, different families, right? And they're different from your family, and then you're like, oh
Oh,
wow,
that's
they do it differently. They have dinner differently.
right.
But what's interesting was it was like a very weird dynamic with the kids, and I remember being kind of scared, but also like it just seemed so odd. And then it turned out that we weren't friends anymore, because it was kind of intense. And
Yeah.
he got really angry at me and yelled at me at school and blah blah blah, and threatened to. He said something like, I'm going to make you bleed and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I hadn't even like. It was just crazy. Anyway, he turned out to be a cop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Imagine.
he turned out. I'm not saying all cops are like this. I think everyone does things for different reasons, but I
Yeah.
do. But I've been thinking about fascism, and I kind of been thinking like, I think fascism starts in the family. You know.
It's a
Um,
parent thing, probably. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not being like psychology 101, but I'm at the same time, I'm thinking like, if people are used to a domineering kind of authority figure, then they may seek it, when they get older, when they're looking at candidates, right? So,
Well, they may not know that they're seeking it,
yes,
like you
yes,
go with what is familiar, not necessarily what's good, you
right,
know.
right. That's true. Yeah.
Who
I go
knows?
back and forth with wanting to be empathetic, and then also and then also just saying like, I've had enough, I'm not going to be empathetic to these people who've had privilege for so long, and
Yeah.
including myself. I haven't, it hasn't been easy to reconcile that I'm part of America. Anyway, um, it's something to think about when we talk about monsters.
Yes. Yes. How to recognize the monster in yourself and not feed it.
Right, right. And I think that art really helps in some ways, because that recognizing part is, sometimes I've made artwork and I've surprised myself and just would like, where is that coming from? Have you ever surprised yourself when you've made a piece of artwork where like you've like, who made that, or?
Well, I'm not sure if like I'm so surprised, but it's like, oh, well, yeah, there was that little thing in there. Or whether it was like, oh, I've seen that in a dream, and I didn't really know why I dreamed I dreamed that dream, but now having, worked with that image for a while, I'm starting to develop, you know, some thoughts about why that dream was was happening.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, I am going to, I'm
Okay.
sorry that I can't stay that long. I just walked
Oh,
by and, oh, let me do some of this, but I do have something else that I do need to
of
get to.
course.
But
Well, well, thanks for, yeah. Thank
you're
you
going to
for
do,
joining. Thanks for
you're going to,
joining. Oh, go ahead. Do you need to?
oh, you're welcome.
I think
Enjoyed
I
it,
can,
but
I can
are you
switch you
going to,
around. Oops. Oop. I think I can switch you around. Hold on. Okay, Maribeth, thank you for visiting and being open to talking about monsters. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and start a new one. I work very fast because my studio work is very slow, and this is at the end of a studio day, and so I need to do something fast because I have uh, a lot of pent up stuff because of how how slow I work. So I thought, well, the mirror gave birth to this monster, but let's say goodbye to this one. So showing the monster the front door. At this point, if anyone wants to also talk or share their doodle while we talk, great. If not, then and you've just joined us, you can go ahead and just grab a piece of paper or a pen and find some junk mail. Like I said, I use the room and board catalog because everything is so perfect. It's fun to draw all over it. My and I like to do these kind of cloud-like um, marks. They they keep me kind of going faster. And there was something kind of funny. I was talking to my husband, Kid, and Kid was telling me how his mom, who kind of was like a frustrated artist, used to draw, although she was an artist, but she wasn't, just because she didn't have exhibitions doesn't mean that she wasn't an artist. So that was my assumption, and I apologize. But she would draw all over everything, draw on the TV guide, draw on the Time magazine, draw newspapers while she was having a cup of coffee. And he would be like excited to see a picture of David Bowie. And then all of a sudden it would have her drawings all over it. And I remember a few Time magazines with a mustache on the front cover now and then. It's kind of a way of saying, kind of making fun of things, a way of putting your mark on things. And especially magazines, when I was growing up, they you had to be pretty important to be in them, or people had to think you were kind of important. So it was kind of a fun way to say, oh no, I'm in charge. I get to draw giant hoop earrings on you. Oh look, I just realized my monster has a purse. That's really funny. So I hope people have had a good week. Because I spend a lot of time on my phone, I have good weeks where nothing too bad is happening. But then I also have all the news, and then I feel like it's a separate reality. that that's also part of my reality, and it's a real reality. It's like we just heard from Maribeth, who lives in DC, and but I'm way out in Tucson, and we have other things going on. So, but at the same time, I can always hop on my phone and just be like horrified. And I think that's always kind of how things are, right? And it's interesting too how when people talk about monsters, they often think about kids, you know, because we first experience monsters when we're kids. But they become maybe more real and less part of our imagination. Or maybe they blur together. And hopefully you can hear the sound that a marker makes on the page. It's a great sound for me. I just had to do it. I had to do it because it's ridiculous. Maybe he's eating the cactus. And at this point, I hope that you all have been able to have fun with drawing and be surprised by it and that it's relaxing for you. And I have to say, I have so appreciated being able to put feelings and just nervousness and anxiety into something, and that it has a place that I can see it and not react to it. So, and like I said, doodling shouldn't have a goal. I'm a terrible example of not drawing, of drawing without a goal. You know, what can I say? But the first part of doodling, it's almost just to find shapes, you know, to find and not worry about a story, not worry about what people are thinking, not worry. And I hope that you have not worried. So with that said, I said this was going to be 30 minutes. We started at 6:05. It's now 30 minutes. I have a Northern European background, so I like to stay to my timetable. Not personally, ancestrally. And I'm still trying to decide what I think of it, but sometimes it's good. I don't want to take up your whole Friday night, and I appreciate you being here. I'm going to flip the camera, and we're going to say goodbye to each other. So hold on. Way. I was so happy to see so many names that I haven't been able to see in real life, and I just really appreciate you being here. This has been a lonely time, and unless you have a big network of friends that you can talk to on the phone or see around in the yard 3 feet away, uh, it's nice to even use this. So anyway, so I'm going to send you off. I think we're going to try next Friday. I'm going to try this again. If you want to join and you like to draw, fantastic. And if you want to just watch, that's good too. And we're going to be talking, we're going to talk about the theme of wealth and money and all that stuff. So anyway, thanks. Mwah.